Welcome back this week to another edition of the Manson Brothers Show. Bros rocking the Derby. Hey, this week we're going with something a little more classic. I think it's kind of a little laid back, a little more maybe family friendly.
No, you might be.
It's not the typical Manson Brothers show so far, but it's definitely got some twists and turns too. It's a cool classic. Fred Decker, one of his better movies. Yeah, Shane Black. This week we are going to talk about, and by the way, this was also one of the most requested shows for us to do a show about. So
that's right.
We're getting to the fans and getting to the commenters, and here we go. We'll be right back with Monster Squad. And we're back. Thanks for coming back to another edition of the Manson Brothers Show. This week we are talking
super excited, man.
Well, tell us.
Monster Squad.
You're so excited.
I love this movie, and I love Monster Squad. And the funny thing is, I think when we originally saw it, it came out in '87, so it was like we were like 18,
high school,
close to 18, right? So, maybe because we were that age, I probably didn't appreciate it as much because I wanted a little more like adult-oriented horror kind of stuff. But upon revisiting it, I really think it's awesome. I think it's a great movie, and might I add, PG, right? PG, not PG-13.
Yeah. Did they have PG-13 back then? Was that a thing?
I don't know if it was a thing yet. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly when that came in. I do believe it was late 80s, but I don't exactly know where. But, folks, if I'm wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's PG and not PG-13. But even if it was,
by the way, let us know about anything.
Anything.
We
get shit wrong constantly. So,
and if you don't like the hat or you don't like the glasses or the setup or whatever, let us know that too. We've got thick skin. We can take it.
Yeah, we're okay with it.
Speaking of which, I'd like to give some shout outs to some of our regular commenters on the show. Please, if you don't hear your name this time, don't be offended. We'll bring it up at a later date. We're going a little bit alliterative today with our J crew. So
wait a minute. Are you accusing me of not knowing how to read?
No, I said alliterative, not illiterate, which you are. But it's a totally different thing that involves similar letters.
Thanks,
yeah.
Right.
So no, it wasn't a dig whatsoever. Anyway, would you like to do the honors of throwing out to our?
Yeah, we got. Well, I'll do. We got Jordy, who always comments.
Jordy's been around since day one. Love you, Jordy.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And Jeremy Landis.
We do have Jeremy Landis. That's right. Always a great commenter. We've got him. And who's our other J? Jack Mack. Jack
Mack and the Heart Attack. That was a band.
Right. I'm actually going to throw out a sound one. What's that? Onomatopoeia or something like that?
No, man, you get that if you eat a lot of prunes and apricots.
No.
You never get off the toilet.
I used to have an antibiotic for that. But I actually am going to go out to Germ as well. Germ's one of our boys.
Yeah, Germ.
Thanks, man. Hey, thanks for being around. And as the weeks go on, keep those comments coming because we're going to throw shout-outs as we go.
We really appreciate all your support. And even people that come on that don't particularly like us, they comment too, and that's okay.
We appreciate that too.
We're not politicians.
Let's get back to some classic monsters. So we're going to talk about a werewolf, right? We've obviously got Frankenstein. We've got something that kind of is similar to the creature from the Black Lagoon, but what do they call him? Like Gillman or something like that?
Gillman. That's what they called him in the creature too. They called him the Gillman.
I got to tell you, that for me was a little bit disappointing because the creature from the Black Lagoon is one of my favorites of all time.
Me too.
But, I will say, and I don't know the gentleman's name, but whoever played Dracula in this film did a bang-up job, man. This guy.
Yeah, he's a Canuck. He's a Canadian actor. And,
really? He had the perfect combo look between, he was very menacing looking, and at the same time, he was kind of suave looking, too.
Yeah. He really, it's not an easy role to step into because he's not just playing a vampire. He's playing Dracula, iconic look, a kind of character. So when you say Dracula, people think of one or two people. They always think of Bela Lugosi, right?
Yep.
Or Christopher Lee.
Right? I thought it was an interesting casting selection because he kind of had blonde hair too. He didn't have that widow's peak black hair, that you see on a lot of the Draculas.
And at first, I kind of threw. At first, I'm like, "Oh, come on, this is bullshit." It doesn't, because I couldn't buy him in the role. But as the movie goes on, he really kills it, man. He's really good.
He did a hell of a job. And so, I mean, this movie, it's really interesting because to me on the rewatch, like I feel like I didn't enjoy it as much when we were younger because the kids were slightly younger. I was never into like Goonies or any of that kind of kids type of stuff.
No.
But definitely on this one, it was so much better because being, quote unquote, an adult, I could appreciate little,
well, age-wise, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's a number only. But you can kind of appreciate the kids and God, talk about a movie like you said that you couldn't even get made today anymore.
You couldn't get this thing past. You couldn't get it past the first set of readers.
Right. If you said fat kid once in a movie now, forget it.
Look, it's the most politically incorrect kids movie. I don't know if maybe I've ever seen. Maybe it gets up to the Bad News Bears. I don't know, but I'd have to rewatch that one.
That is a classic.
But well, yeah, they call the kid a fat kid all the time. They call him a derogatory slang for LGBTQ. See, I'm not going to say it because he always gets on me about being politically incorrect. I don't even know. So if I say something politically incorrect, folks, I'm an idiot. So, I mean, I can attest to that. Right. 100%. I even have to admit it myself. Right. So, anyway, it's pretty edgy.
Let's dig into some of the parts that make it edgy because a lot of this is just a kid's film, for lack of a better term, a family movie. There's a girl who's like 4, but there are some moments, and I'll get into one in particular, that I found completely shocking for what I thought the tone of the film was.
Yeah. And by the way, before you do, folks, if you haven't watched the show before, we're going to spoil the movie for you. So hit pause, watch the movie, and then please do come back and watch the rest of the show. So without further ado,
here we go. Well, I'm gonna kind of give you the run to tell what your edgy parts were, and the parts that were. I mean, let's face it. This thing's kind of a tearjerker at the end of the movie. Like we haven't done one of those before, right?
100%. Yeah, unless the movie's so bad we're crying we blew $20 on it.
Yes, exactly. But not because it was intended to make you feel sad.
No.
At the end.
No.
Right?
You know what? The one thing I think I have a problem with the movie and I liked about the movie at the same time. So it's a weird sort of, what do they call it? Juxtaposition.
Juxtaposition. So dichotomy.
Yeah, that too. So the Frankenstein monster, who is played by Tom Noonan, who's been in everything, Manhunter and Heat, and great actor, big tall guy, great actor, love Tom. So they really took the childlike quality of the Frankenstein monster as Karloff originally portrayed him as in the first 2 movies. And sort of blew that up.
Which, by the way, is obviously the most endearing part of the film, right? Is the relationship.
Right, absolutely.
And especially the little girl.
Right. So Stone, you're gonna love this one. So last night when I was gonna rewatch the movie, Pa insisted on watching it with me.
Oh.
Okay,
Lord.
so I think you can see I won't bore the people with everything, but I knew he wasn't gonna like it. Our father doesn't like horror movies. He doesn't like fantasy and sci-fi. He likes stuff with a spy.
He doesn't like anything but scotch and no filter cigarettes. So anything other than that, it's a toss-up.
Right. So he's watching it. We're watching the movie, and he's like, Carlos, this thing's kind of corny. And I'm like, yeah, Pa, it's corny. It's a kid's movie.
Right. It's supposed to be kind of corny, right?
Right. And then but Pa pointed out, he goes, so Dracula in the movie, they're trying to get a hold of this book, right? So Dracula tells Frankenstein's monster, you go get the book. Get it from these kids, right? Get it from these kids.
Yeah.
And if and here's the edgy part. And if you don't get it, kill them. Like kill little kids, right?
Yes. That was one part.
So wait, so Pa goes, Carlos, this doesn't make any sense. He tells him to go get kids. He goes, first of all, Carlos, the Frankenstein monsters, he couldn't figure it out anyway because he's not smart. He goes, second of all, how does he know which kids to go to? Which I thought was a fairly astute,
Yeah, that's an observation.
Pa's
Did
no
they know it
dummy.
because of the amulet thing or one of those deals?
No, it was an absolute accident as the thing goes on, because he finds the little girl sitting in the park or by the water or wherever he finds her, and it's just a coincidence. But that brings me to my point. So not to get sidetracked on Pa, because that's another story. But so after Pa points that out, no, we won't. So anyway, he finds a little girl in the park. So that is a scene for scene take from the original Frankenstein film, where he finds the little girl sitting by the lake, and in the original movie she's throwing flowers in the water, and he thinks that all beautiful things must go in the water, so he picks up the little girl and chucks her in the water, and she drowns. And in the original film, it was so shocking they cut it out originally, and they've only recently so they don't show it.
I'm going to get to my moment that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they just did that. So at the end, when the cops are all showing up and everything's going on, and the one kid's dad is the detective, right? Right. And his partner,
Stephen Mack, I think his name is.
His partner comes rolling in the car, and like Dracula's got, I don't know, some dynamite or some shit that he rolls into the car and blows the car up, killing the other detective. And
played by the iconic Stan Shaw, I might add.
My God, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's brutal, man.
It's kind of Swedish. Not when I say, I don't mean Swedish like Swedish fish. I mean sweet-ish movie where all of a sudden they're just blowing a cop up in a car.
Light-hearted.
Totally took me back.
Yeah, they totally kill him. Right, they totally kill him. And what's cool about that particular scene is he wasn't a throwaway character. Like they established his, and he does a really good job. He's kind of a wise ass and all that. But wait a minute, here's another thing. Not to get the Pa. So Pa goes, what does he need to drive a hearse for? He's Dracula. Can't he just fly like a bat? And I'm like, Pa, it's a movie, Pa. He
does fly like a bat, though. Some of the time throughout the film.
He drives the hearse up to the door, and he's got the stick of dynamite. I said, well, Pa, maybe you can't carry dynamite as a bat. He goes,
well, here's another issue that I had as an issue. And again, I'm not busting on the movie whatsoever, but I have this issue.
I'm busting on Pa.
Yeah, well, that's about as hard to do as get it out of a wet paper bag. Like all things aquatic, to me, they seem absolutely useless. It's like having Aquaman on your side. There's actually no redeeming value whatsoever to him, unless
my
you just
powers
so
to control fish are useless here. No kid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I want some sushi and he can get one to flop onto my table, you know, and give it the
unless you're Chief Brody and Quint, you really don't have any use for them,
right?
You know, at that time.
Tits on a boar, sadly. So I kind of felt like the Gill Man was a little out of place too. I mean, I know they make him important in the beginning because he's drudging up Frankenstein, which, by the way, that box for Frankenstein was way too small for what he actually would have been.
I noticed that too.
The Gill guy didn't really wind up doing anything because when you're running around in a town,
neither did the mummy.
Oh my God! Okay,
I gotta tell you So we've pointed out bad parents in movies before.
Yes,
this has the worst parents on the planet. I'm gonna let you point out number 2. I'm gonna point out number 1.
I'm not even going to the parents. I'm going bad monsters. That's what I'm going with. So you can go ahead.
Okay. So folks, okay, if you're of parenting age and you might have a kid, right? Or you have parents that you have to live in their basement because you were blackballed from but that's another story. So she's putting the mom of the lead kid, played by Andre Gower, is putting the little girl, Phoebe, to bed. And she's scared. So what does the mom do to soothe her? Puts a lit candle next to her bed. A lit candle,
dude,
right? Next to a 5-year-old kid's bed. And she goes, you're talking
there's
about
no chance she'll roll over in the middle of the night.
Right, there's no chance that thing will set the room on. It'll take all the monsters out of the room. And Pa goes, and burn it to the ground. Yeah, it's exactly right. So terrible. And the next one is where the little boy is yelling to his dad, there's a monster in here. There's a monster in here. And the dad gets up and he's all pissed off. Because he's like, is there a monster in here? Whoa, and he opens up the closet and the mummy's in there, right? And he doesn't see him and he shuts the door and he leaves the little kid in there with the fucking mummy. I'm like, oh my God, these are the worst parents on the planet. The other guy's blowing smoke in his son's face.
Well, back when you could smoke in the house, nobody gave a shit, right?
Yeah, right. So I mean.
So I'm going to say the best thing that could have happened to that guy was the mummy being in the closet, because never a more useless monster has. I mean, he's scary looking. There's no doubt about it. But first off, he walks with a limp, so you could outrun him, with no problem.
If you can't, a friend of ours used to say,
as the show goes, it's like, come on.
Our good friend Jerry Harrison used to say, if you get killed by the mummy, you deserve to die. You get caught by the mummy.
True. Yes.
Yeah, you get caught by the mummy, you deserve to die.
Yeah, and if there's a gill guy and you're stupid enough to go anywhere near the water, then you ought to get the clip too. I mean,
and just to prove, so in the hierarchy of monsters, those two of the big five, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and the Creature, the Mummy and the Creature, the Gill Man, are like down at they're the bench warmers, right? Because unless you're in the water, the Creature, not too effective.
Nothing.
And the Mummy's slower than crud. So unless you're an invalid, I'm sure he kills a lot of people in nursing homes. But
you saw Bubba Hotep, right?
Right. We're gonna do that movie too, folks. I love that movie.
Yeah, great movie.
So anyway,
only mummy,
the Mummy,
that was ever in the right spot.
Right. So the Mummy is the first one to get the chop from the film, right? That the tough kid unravels him, and then the Creature gets shot by Horace, the fat kid, right? And that, by the way, pretty graphic too. I mean, he literally blows a hole in his chest and he falls over.
I don't know what they were called, but the young ladies that were with Dracula, they kind of got some gruesome stuff too, man. I mean, she got point blanked, right?
Yeah, and by the way, those vampire chicks were scary looking. I mean, they didn't pull. By the way, folks, this is a Skull Manson personal thing. When I look at vampires, I don't like the vampires that all the prosthetics all over. I like them when they look human, because there's nothing scarier than a human being that there's just something off about them. Something's clearly not right. But
I deal with that every day.
Hey, wait a minute.
Let's talk about another great performance, though. Wolfman, or whatever he's referred to as in the movie.
The Wolfman.
So this was kind of a really cool character, because a lot of times you don't get the angst from the human that's the Wolfman, right? Like,
no, you just see the Wolfman.
This guy was actively like, dude, lock me in a cell. Dude,
please kill me.
Please kill me. Do all this shit to me. Do not let me get out, right? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? This guy's crazy.
Yeah, they really homaging the original Lon Chaney Jr. role, where he did not want to be a monster. I thought
that was super cool about this movie, that they had him react like that, which it gave it. With that and Frankenstein, you got this really cool irony of these monsters that one doesn't know he's a monster, right? He's still learning like an infant. Right. And the other really knows he's a monster, and he's trying to do everything in his power, not to be a monster. I thought that was really cool for, again, what I would consider like a kid's movie for the most part.
Yeah,
but,
it was
dug into that.
Well, I think Fred Decker and Shane Black were really big fans, like we are, of the Universal monsters, right? So they really wanted to capture the original spirit and intent of those characters, I think. And they kept it pretty true to the original guys. There's that scene where the Frankenstein they hand him the monster mask of himself, and he looks at it, he goes, scary, like he doesn't want to be.
He feels bad, right?
He feels bad, right? He feels bad. That, to me, one, superior writing, right? I mean, brilliant. It really was brilliant. Yeah, well, yeah. But brilliant scene, really, because in that one scene, now you have this emotional connection to this monster. And that scene where all the kids are walking down the street and the little girl's holding the hand of the Frankenstein monster. Like they always said to little kids, and us, not included in that, when we were little kids, we all loved the Frankenstein monster. Why? Because he was childlike. We weren't scared of him. I was more scared of the townspeople coming with the pitchforks. Like that never happened to us outside of Cleveland. But thank you, Stoneworth Manson.
Oh, well, hey, every now and then.
Every now and then.
Every now and again.
All right. Well, that's a sidebar.
I mean, that Frankenstein part kind of leads us into what I would call the tearjerker moment of the movie, right? When they finally kind of dispense of everyone, and now he's created this relationship. and he's got to get out of there too. He's got to go back through the portal or whatever the hell that thing was.
And that's another thing. So to point that out, another edgy thing is they open up that portal to limbo at the end, right? And it's sucking things in. And a bunch of cops get sucked in there. A bunch of regular citizens get sucked in there. So it's not just sucking in monsters. I was like, shit,
it was probably way better than where they were at anyway. It was like those episodes of The
I'm
Simpsons,
thinking you go to work one day and, you're punching in at the sheriff's department. Hey, Phil. Hey, Bob. And the next thing you know, you're floating around in limbo. What the fuck, man? I just wanted a bowl of oatmeal and a coffee break.
Amen.
So,
hey, let's get to this week's viewer email.
Yes.
This comes to us from... Got it on my phone this time, man. This is kind of cool. I'm becoming a big deal now. This one comes from Cassie, and Cassie is from New Hampshire. Wow. Hey, that's our first New Hampshire, I think.
Yeah.
Cassie writes,
I've never been there.
Great show. I think it's super cool that you're doing Monster Squad. Thank you very much, Cassie. If you had to pick a non-Monster Squad monster that was your favorite when you were a kid growing up, who would it be? Wow, great question. That's awesome. That's going to take a minute.
Well, it kind of so none of the big five then.
We can't take the big five. No. Any movie monster.
Godzilla.
I know mine. Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to pick a different one now that you picked Godzilla because that would be my favorite for sure. Godzilla was awesome. Come on. God, monster. What were some other monsters?
Phantom of the Opera.
I always think of the Loch Ness monster, but that's not really that's more like a
It's a myth.
Yeah, it's like an urban legend.
A movie monster.
Yeah, definitely not King Kong. Crap. This is tough. Well,
do the killers count? Like Pinhead and Michael Myers and them guys?
I don't consider those guys monsters. They're more
they're
slashers.
Killers.
They're killers.
How about the Blob?
No, I'm gonna go with the middle octopus thing from Slither. That was my favorite one.
Oh,
and we covered Slither a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
When he's in the middle and he hasn't quite gotten to the gelatinous stage yet, but he's still.
You know what else
he's got tentacles and stuff. I
like the monster from the original Thing from Another World, played by James Arness. The original.
I don't remember that.
He kind of looks like the Frankenstein monster. He's got these big spikes on his knuckles. We'll have to rewatch it because if you haven't seen it for a while, great fucking movie.
But I'd say Godzilla probably if I was just picking off the top of my head.
If you don't like Godzilla, you're a communist.
Tall. Yeah, no. And if you like King Kong better, not cool.
Yeah, you're also
Let's
a communist.
Let's hear about that in the comments, by the way.
Yeah, King Kong or Godzilla, folks.
Well, that brings us to it's time to take it home, man. Look at what last thoughts that we've got on Monster Squad. This was a really cool rewatch. I enjoyed it, and I hope everybody gets a chance to do a second time or a third.
Yeah, I would like to add. I just want to close with one thing. I think the movie's really great, and if you got kids, it's really is good for your kids. It's a little edgy, so just warn them a little bit maybe. But other than that, great movie's got a great ending, scary monsters, but lighthearted stuff, and one of the greatest lines of all time: "Wolfman's got nards." When they kick him in
everybody
the balls.
remembers that one.
Yeah, great show. There's a documentary too about it.
I personally like when the little girl asked if they're all chicken shit. I thought that was quite funny.
Oh, wait a minute. How about they let the tough kid is making bullets in wood shop? You couldn't get away with that shit now.
That kid was pretty classic too. He was awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
one of the things I was going to piggyback on what you said about this too, if you've got children that are this age, this is probably a pretty good introduction into those series of monsters, Dracula.
Absolutely.
Because obviously we're not inundated with that like we were when we were kids. It was all Dracula, Frankenstein.
Right, because that's all we had on black and white TVs.
So if you want to get them introduced to this type of thing and those monsters, this is a really cool way to do it. So
I think so. Great movie.
This week, guys. Great movie.
Go to MansonBrothers.com. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment. We always respond. We love interacting with people that watch. And we're not above criticism, so let us have it. We don't care. We're good.
Microphones.
Yeah.
Don't forget it. Hey, until next week, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Can't wait to see you again. Please, like my brother said, leave the comments. We'll do some shout-outs and put your shopping carts away. And we'll be back
next week, a very special guest. See you later, shitty pants.
Bye-bye.